Hi, it's Carl Brower, and I'm standing next to the all-new 2025 Volkswagen ID Buzz. Now, this is the long-awaited all-electric vehicle from Volkswagen, and of course it pays homage to not only one of Volkswagen's most iconic past models, but you could argue one of the most iconic past models in the history of the automobile. And I've just been driving it around, and I'm really impressed with things like its acceleration. Of course, it's got all that great instant torque that electric vehicles always have. But it's also got some really good interior material qualities that gives it a very upscale feel, and it's got a lot of great storage innovation. There's really cool pockets and storage compartments all over the place, and it does have a bunch of space in there because of the boxy design. It even kind of has that new Beetle effect where there's the dash and then there's all this space on the top of the dash between the windshield and where you're actually sitting. Sometimes it feels like a little bit of a waste of space. It felt that way in the Volkswagen Beetle, the new Beetle, and it kind of feels that way here too, but it also feels very expansive and airy and open. Similar to the new Beetle, this thing comes in all sorts of crazy colors. This one's called Mahi Green, but you can get bright reds, bright orange, bright blues. But unlike the new Beetle, this one's got 3 rows of seats and these great sliding doors that make entry and exit really easy. You can also fold the seats down and get a lot of cargo capacity. Of course, like every electric vehicle, this one's relatively expensive. It starts at about $60,000 and goes up to around $75,000 depending on how it's equipped. And for that price, you get between 231 and 234 miles of range, depending on if it's a rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive model. Volkswagen did a good job of tuning this ID Buzz, not only for the kind of acceleration you expect from an electric vehicle, but also dynamically. It's pretty confident around corners despite the size and the boxy shape, helped out of course by the battery pack that's mounted below the passenger floor, and that lowers the center of gravity like a lot of EVs, makes them feel more nimble than you'd think they'd be given their weight. I have to say, it's tough controlling your speed in this car on a 35-mile-per-hour road. Everything from the complete refinement of the drivetrain to the lack of wind noise to the torque of the electric motor, my foot is barely on the throttle and I'm getting right up to 40+ miles per hour, which is breaking the speed limit on a road like this. Even for an electric car, the amount of torque and capability to maintain speed is something I'm not expecting, especially out of a vehicle this big. The other thing that really impresses me, more so than I expected, is the quality of the interior. I mean, this really does have a plush material quality and look to it in here. The steering wheel leather, the seats, this kind of ash wood on the dash, it's really upscale, and it does help justify that $60,000 starting price. I didn't expect the interior on this vehicle to be this nice, this plush, or this premium feeling. So kudos to Volkswagen for not just making the car have a cool exterior style and interior functionality, but putting the money where people are going to appreciate it as they drive in this vehicle. They're going to get this nice, refined electric drivetrain experience, and they're going to have this really upscale, premium interior that they're going to enjoy the whole time they're in the vehicle. The ID Buzz's vintage exterior design didn't keep Volkswagen from adding a lot of interior technology. You've got this smaller gauge cluster that moves with the steering wheel, and you can change how it looks and adjust its display. You've got a heads-up display that looks great even in bright sunlight like right now, and you've got a massive central touchscreen with a wide range of features you can adjust. You know, there's a lot of old vans in the world and probably don't have the best impression or the best reputation, but there's a new van that's the Volkswagen ID Buzz. And I've been driving this thing all day today now and got some experience behind the wheel, and it's really an impressive vehicle, more so than I expected it to be. I knew it was going to be cool looking, but it looks even better in person when you've seen it for years in different photos. And I knew it was going to have like the torque of an electric car because it is an electric car, but it's really got a sprightly engine and drivetrain. And I knew it was going to have a roomy interior, but I didn't know it was going to have this fabulously premium plush interior. You get into it and there are just so many cool features that this thing's got. The seating is roomy, 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 and so are the materials, are just plush. They're just really high quality plush materials that you've got here. This is called the Dune interior. That's what gets you this kind of coffee, almost mocha color against the white leather. And they've got this ash kind of wood trim here as well. This is a 12.9-inch central touchscreen, and then you've got a smaller gauge cluster here that can show you everything from not just speed and range, but also the status of your driver assist systems, and there is a head-up display as well. You can slide these seats forward and back, giving you a lot of leg room for the second row or increased leg room for the third row. But let's talk about the third row, because not only is it fold downable like any third row so that you can get a flat load floor, but it also is removable. You can pull these third row seats if you want and end up with a lot of space behind the second row. There's Easter eggs all through this car. You've got not only the little ID Buzz here, but you've also got some cool features like a USB-C port right here, and there's one on both sides. So if you're sitting in these back row seats, you get those features right there. You've got your own charging plug on either side of you for the third row. And of course, they did put in this kind of mountable little load floor thing so that you can have a flat load floor when the third row seats are folded down. If you fold down the second row seats, you end up with a completely flat load floor all the way to the back of the front row seats. Volkswagen keeps trying to maybe save some money and space by not having dedicated window switches. So these window switches work both the front and rear. To make the rear window open, you have to hit that toggle to rear. What's cool is the rear window is kind of like the classic slider on the original Volkswagen bus. It moves side to side just like it did in the original one, but now it's power operated. There's an option for these cars to have a panoramic sunroof. This one doesn't have it, as you see, it's just solid, but you can get a giant panoramic sunroof that's also the electrochromic technology, meaning it's clear and then it goes to opaque or back again, hitting a button. The other cool thing that Volkswagen's doing with this vehicle is they're making it very personalized. You can actually get 8 different two-tone colors like this. Some of them are pretty bright too, like reds and blues. Or you can get 3 solid colors, like I think there's a gray and a black that are solid from top to bottom. Interior-wise, this car's got that dune color that they said is kind of a beach theme. There's also a dark brown that's supposed to be more luxurious, and then there's the black that you would expect on pretty much every car, and it does offer that too. So 3 interior colors, 11 exterior colors, 8 of them two-tone, 3 of them solid. You know, it wouldn't be a Volkswagen bus if it didn't have a giant Volkswagen emblem on the front of it. Volkswagen was smart to include certain key exterior design cues to celebrate the heritage of this car. There's a massive amount of interior space in this vehicle. It's actually got more interior space than a Chevy Suburban, and yet it's notably shorter than a Chevy Suburban, so it's easier to drive around and park in the city. But it's not just how much space there is in here, it's also how smart it's been set up. Look at this. You can have a phone storage place right there, including chargers. You've got this cool deployable cup holder area, and you've got this shelf over the glove box. Of course, there's door pockets too, like you would expect in any vehicle of this nature. And finally, you've got what's really become more common in modern cars, which is not just a center console, but a removable center console. You can actually pull this thing out if you want, and if you have captain's chairs in the second row, you can have this one moved to the second row, or you can buy another one of these and have one in both rows. So you can get 3 versions of the new Volkswagen ID Buzz. You can get the base Pro, you can get the mid-level Pro Plus, or you can get the first edition. And the pricing runs really from about $60,000 to about $70,000. There are some options like a Harman Kardon system that'll add on top of that. Same with the electrochromatic big panoramic roof that this one doesn't have. They're going to hit showrooms in about mid-November. And judging from the reaction that we're seeing from everyone who sees this, I'm expecting there to be a lot of upfront demand. Of course, the challenge with EVs is never to sell them when they first come out, because there's always that group that wants the latest technology and they love the new EVs. The challenge is to sell a year later in high numbers and maintain the demand. I think of all the electric vehicles that have come out in the last few years, this one might have the best shot at actually having ongoing demand once the initial rush is done. I really like the concept behind the Volkswagen ID Buzz, and I think it's great that Volkswagen brought back this classic shape and iconic vehicle in an all-new form with electric power. It's great for running around locally and carrying a lot of people and things, but with only 230 miles of range, you might not really want a road trip. It's going to be hard to chase the Grateful Dead in this vehicle unless you have a lot of charging support. We'll see how it does in the marketplace. There's always a lot of interest and buzz in cars like this when they first come out. Will it maintain sales? And hopefully, more importantly, can cars like this be profitable in the long term?